Have you ever been in the presence of someone and felt an almost unbearable wave of irritation wash over you? A profound, restless impatience that has nothing to do with malice, but everything to do with their very essence. An essence you can only label as boring. It's a feeling that prickles at the edges of your composure, a subtle, internal revolt against a palpable stillness, a spiritual vacuum that seems to emanate from them and threaten to consume the very air you breathe. If you have ever felt this, understand that you are not alone, and what you are experiencing is far more than a simple social annoyance. It is a sacred alarm, a deep and resonant signal from your very soul, a clear and undeniable sign of your own awakening. This feeling is a form of divine guidance, a message from your higher self, confirming that you are now vibrating at a frequency so high, so attuned to life and growth, that it can no longer tolerate spiritual emptiness. This is not a flaw in your character, it is a testament to your evolution. If this truth strikes a chord deep within you, if you recognize the echo of this feeling as your own sacred call, affirm it now. Acknowledge your journey by commenting, "I am awake," below. Share this message, this light, with others who may be feeling the same. Pull towards something more, and be sure to follow for more divine truths that will continue to illuminate your path. This experience, this deep-seated and almost visceral discomfort with boredom, was something the great sage and philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer understood not as a fleeting mood or a minor inconvenience, but as a central, unyielding pillar of the human condition. He saw it as a fundamental manifestation of our deepest spiritual suffering, an inescapable part of the cosmic drama of existence. In his profound vision, he saw our lives as a grand cosmic pendulum, swinging eternally and rhythmically between two powerful opposing poles, pain and boredom. When you are striving, yearning, reaching with every fiber of your being for something you do not yet possess, be it love, success, or enlightenment, you are firmly in the realm of pain. It is the sharp, poignant pain of lack, the gnawing ache of unfulfilled desire, the tangible emptiness of a space in your life that you desperately wish to fill. This state of perpetual striving is the very engine of our modern world, the relentless, breathless chase for more, always more. It is the fuel for our ambitions and the source of our greatest achievements. But what happens when the chase finally ends? What happens when the finish line is crossed? When all your material needs are met? When every desire you once held has been gratified? Does a state of perpetual bliss and serene contentment descend upon you like a gentle dawn? Schopenhauer, with his unflinching gaze into the human soul, would say no. Instead, the pendulum of your existence, having reached the zenith of its arc in the realm of pain, inevitably swings back to the opposite pole. You are now confronted with a different kind of suffering, the chilling, profound emptiness of fulfillment. And it is in this vast, quiet, and unnervingly still space that boredom arises. It emerges not as a simple lack of things to do, but as the sudden, stark unmasking of a profound inner poverty, a terrifying void within the soul that all the external achievements in the world could not fill. Boredom, he teaches us, is the quiet horror of having everything and realizing you are still nothing. This philosophical lens illuminates precisely why the presence of a boring person can feel so intensely confrontational, so deeply unsettling to our spirit. When you encounter them, your irritation is not merely a surface-level reaction to their predictable conversation, their monotonous tone, or their palpable lack of dynamic energy. No, what you are truly reacting to is something far deeper, far more personal. You are reacting to the disquieting echo they awaken deep within the hidden chambers of your own soul. They become, in that moment, a living, breathing psychological mirror, and what they reflect back at you is a terrifying, primordial truth you have been running from your entire life. They reflect the chilling, creeping suspicion that your own existence, when stripped of its constant noise, its endless carousel of distractions, its desperate chase for novelty, might be just as hollow, just as vacant. Their stillness forces you to confront the silent, horrifying question that whispers from the depths of your being. Without all this motion, without all this noise, Who am I? What am I, really? Your visceral reaction, the discomfort that makes your skin crawl, the impatience that tightens in your chest, the quiet contempt that rises unbidden, not a rational judgment of them. It is an emotional, spiritual recoil from the reflection they offer. It is a desperate, instinctual attempt to shatter the mirror before you are forced to look too closely at your own image, to see the potential for that same emptiness lurking within yourself. Schopenhauer perceived boredom as a kind of spiritual X-ray, a divine diagnostic tool with the power to penetrate all our superficial layers and expose the soul's deepest, most hidden ailment, its lack of genuine, self-generated content. A truly interesting person, in this sacred and enlightened view, is not someone who can constantly entertain us with an endless stream of external novelties, witty anecdotes, or exciting plans. That is merely distraction, a temporary anesthetic for the soul. The truly captivating individual, the one whose presence is a source of genuine energy and inspiration, is one who has cultivated a vast and rich interior world. Imagine their soul as a secret garden, a vibrant universe within themselves, teeming with profound thoughts that twist and grow like ancient trees, vibrant passions that burn like eternal flames, and unresolved contradictions that clash and create new forms of understanding. They are in a constant, dynamic state of becoming. They are not a finished product. They are a living, breathing process of evolution. When we encounter someone who seems dull, what our spirit, our higher self, instinctively perceives is the stark absence of that inner life. We sense the deafening silence where a vibrant symphony should be playing. And what disturbs us so profoundly is not merely the person standing before us, but the sudden, stark, and terrifying realization that such spiritual emptiness is a possible state for a human soul. It is the awareness that a soul can cease to grow, can become stagnant, and perhaps, most frighteningly, that this state of being may be far closer to us, lurking just beneath the surface of our own busy lives than we would ever dare to admit. The boring individual, understood in these profound terms, isn't just bland, they are fundamentally hollow. And this hollowness, this spiritual vacancy, is contagious. Not in a physical sense, like a virus, but in a symbolic, vibrational one. Their frequency is one of stagnation, a low, droning hum of spiritual inertia, and its very presence threatens to pull our own vibration down toward the same void. Their presence acts as an unwelcome reminder of all the hours we have squandered in meaningless pursuits, the profound existential questions we have diligently ignored in favor of easy, comfortable answers, and the boundless, divine creativity we have abandoned for the deceptive safety of routine. Our mind, which is a divine instrument, designed by nature to seek meaning and tension, to grow through challenge and adversity, becomes utterly terrified of silence and stillness. It instinctively revolts at the sight of such spiritual stagnation. This powerful aversion, then, is a form of sacred self-defense. The mind, programmed for growth, for evolution, for the expansion of consciousness, feels its very existence and purpose threatened by that which does not vibrate, that which does not seek, that which does not suffer on the noble path to becoming. In this sense, boredom is not a passive state. It is aggressive in its revelation. It is a silent proclamation, a ghostly finger-pointing telling us, here lies a life that is not being truly lived. Schopenhauer would argue that those who bore us do more than simply annoy us. They activate a deeper, more primal dread that lies dormant within us all, the dread of becoming like them. It is the bone-chilling fear of waking up one morning, perhaps years from now, and looking in the mirror to find that the fire in our eyes has gone out. It is the horror of realizing that our once vibrant passions have been slowly and systematically replaced by the gray, predictable machinery of routine, that our childlike sense of wonder has faded into the dull haze of mindless scrolling, and that our unique creative genius has been reduced to a mere background process, a quiet, forgotten hum beneath the noise of a life lived on autopilot. And so, in a powerful act of spiritual self-preservation, we project this internal horror outward. We declare with conviction, that person is boring. But what our soul is truly screaming, in a silent agony, is, I fear the deadness they represent. I refuse to let that become my destiny. We don't truly despise their dullness. We despise what their dullness reveals about the terrifying fragility of the human condition and, most frighteningly, what it reveals about the potential fate of our own souls. Should we ever stop paying attention? Should we ever cease our sacred divine quest for more? Modern culture, in countless ways, has become a grand, intricate, and seductive machine designed to inoculate us against Schopenhauer's profound diagnosis. We are taught from a young age to fear the void, to run from the silence, to view an empty moment not as an opportunity for reflection, but as a problem to be solved with stimulation. We drown our potential for boredom in a relentless, blinding cascade of screens, algorithmically perfected dopamine loops, and endlessly curated experiences. We fill every spare moment, every silent gap in our day, with noise, with content, with the shimmering, hollow illusion of connection, all to avoid the terrifying prospect of spending a single, unfiltered moment alone with our own thoughts. But what happens when we inevitably meet someone who refuses to participate in this frantic, collective dance? Someone who is quiet, slow, and utterly unremarkable by the hyper-stimulated standards of our world. In their presence, we feel it again, the undeniable, gravitational pull of the existential vacuum. The boring person becomes an unwelcome rupture in our carefully constructed illusion of busyness. In their company, time, which we are so accustomed to filling and compressing, suddenly stretches out, vast, empty, and unfilled. And that feeling, for a soul conditioned to constant motion and external validation, is almost unbearable. The mystic philosopher Søren Kierkegaard, a true warrior of the inner world, believed that the vast majority of people live in a state of quiet despair. This is not the dramatic, overt unhappiness of tragedy or loss, but something far more insidious, a far more profound suffering. They have never truly become themselves. They move through life as actors on a stage, wearing masks of conformity, performing roles assigned to them by society, their families, and their own deepest fears. They meticulously and unconsciously avoid the awesome, terrifying existential responsibility of defining who they are, of creating their own meaning. From this sacred perspective, the boring person is not merely someone lacking in charisma or social grace. They are, more profoundly, someone who has not yet engaged in the painful, beautiful, and utterly necessary task of becoming. What disturbs us about them is not their behavior, but their complete absence of inner contradiction, of struggle, of transformation. There is no tension in their voice, no flickering uncertainty in their posture, no passionate urgency in their speech. It is as if they have accepted and settled into a pre-packaged, off-the-shelf version of life, a life that demands nothing from them, and therefore, tragically, offers no possibility for true, authentic growth. Kierkegaard saw this as the most tragic form of despair imaginable, no, the loud, dramatic, wailing kind, but the comfortable, quiet, and socially acceptable kind. It is the life lived without ever truly, deeply, and agonizingly asking, why? Our minds, our very souls, are attuned to narrative, to drama, to risk, and to revelation. We instinctively reject the placid stillness of a person who has never collided with the depths of their own being. When we interact with someone who seems boring, what we are really experiencing is the chilling absence of existential fire. There is no sign of the arduous inward journey, no sacred scars from the countless battles fought between the self and the world. And this absence makes us deeply restless, because it fundamentally breaks the silent, unspoken contract we make in every meaningful human interaction. The promise that we will both bring some authentic piece of our soul to the table. We are witnessing inauthenticity in its purest form, a mode of being where a person avoids the sacred duty of becoming by immersing themselves entirely in the trivial. They talk, but their words are empty vessels, saying nothing. They act, but their actions are devoid of choice, never truly deciding. They live, but they never, ever risk. And it is precisely this void that makes them feel so intolerable to a soul that is still questing, still yearning, still alive. We realize, in their presence, how terrifyingly easy it is to simply survive for decades without ever truly living for a single moment. The great prophet of the will, the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, would take this concept even further, into a realm of fierce and fiery judgment. For him, the greatest crime a human being could commit was not evil, for even evil possesses a certain energy and will. The ultimate sin was mediocrity. A life lived without fire, without struggle, without the relentless, agonized pursuit of greatness and self-overcoming, was, in his view, a wasted existencia, profound and unforgivable betrayal of human potential. In this searing light, boredom is not just a lack of stimulation, it is a clear and pungent symptom of spiritual decay. The boring person, in Nietzschean terms, is someone who has ceased to strive, who has laid down their arms in the great battle of becoming. They are not dangerous because they are dull. They are dangerous because they embody the ultimate surrender. They have no edge, no friction, no inner force pulling them toward transformation and growth. When we encounter such a person, our mind does not simply lose interest, it resists them, it rebels. Because deep down, our spirit knows that the life Nietzsche championed, the life of intensity, of will, of becoming, is fundamentally incompatible with such passivity. Boredom, then, is not benign. It is the very scent of decay. It tells us, in no uncertain terms, that somewhere a soul has stopped growing. This powerful aversion to the mundane is, in essence, a revolt against spiritual inertia. We are turning away from the non-self, the unformed soul, the empty vessel. There is something deeply and primally unnerving about encountering someone who seems completely untouched by existential tension, someone who has made a quiet peace with mediocrity. And that is precisely why we react with such subtle, often unconscious, hostility. They do not just bore us. They remind us of a world, a state of being, where conformity has triumphed over courage, where the illusion of safety has replaced the glorious adventure of self-discovery, where the sacred and life-giving question of "who am I becoming?" was tragically exchanged for the profane and soul-crushing question of "how do I fit in?" Nietzsche saw this as a form of spiritual death, not a sudden, violent end, but a slow, comfortable, and polite fading away. It is a life of quiet decay, and when we sense that vibration in someone, even if we cannot articulate why, something primal and alive inside us shuts down. This is not an act of superiority. It is an act of refusal. We cannot, and will not, commune with that which refuses to burn. Think of the piercing words of another wise soul, the mathematician and philosopher Blaise Pascal, who once profoundly wrote that all of humanity's problems stem from our inability to sit quietly in a room alone. This was not a mere poetic exaggeration. It was a deep and precise diagnosis of the human condition. For Pascal, silence was not a state of peace. It was the ultimate confrontation. In the stark absence of distractions, the soul is forced to face itself, and what it often finds there is not serene clarity, but a raging chaos, unresolved fears, unprocessed grief, and the staggering, inescapable weight of its own mortality. The boring person, then, becomes so unbearable not because they are inherently quiet or uninteresting, but because they represent this terrifying silence in human form. They are not stimulating. They do not distract us. They do not pull us out of ourselves and into the noisy world. Instead, with their placid presence, they drop us right back into that still, quiet room, into the very solitude we desperately try to escape through an endless barrage of noise, entertainment, and ceaseless motion. Our rejection of them, therefore, is not really personal at all. It is profoundly metaphysical. We are not merely annoyed, we perceive them as dangerous because they leave us alone with our own thoughts, with the disquieting hum of our own inner void. What we label as boring is simply someone who refuses, or perhaps fails, to perform the social function of protecting us from ourselves. And so, our visceral discomfort around these people is not a failure of empathy. It is a desperate cry for more life. It is a spiritual call back to the sacred urgency of being fully, fiercely, and often painfully alive. What we call boredom is simply a failure to resonate, a failure to feel the vibrant pulse of life in another and, maybe more frighteningly, a failure to feel it in ourselves. In the end, the intense aversion we feel toward boring people may not be hatred or contempt at all. It may, in fact, be a form of grief. It is grief for the parts of ourselves that have become numbed, tamed, and uninspired. Grief for the wild dreams we have let die on the vine, the difficult truths we have stopped telling, and the raw intensity we have meticulously buried under the suffocating weight of routine. The boring person just happens to be the unfortunate, unwitting mirror that reflects that loss back to us. They are not our enemy. They are our shadow. And perhaps the real, ultimate challenge is not to reject them, but to listen to, truly listen to what their presence is telling us about our own lives. To use that discomfort as a catalyst to reignite our own fire, to feel again, to risk again, and to care about something, anything, so deeply and passionately that boredom becomes an impossibility. Because the true opposite of boredom is not noise, or distraction, or entertainment. It is, and always has been, aliveness.